We have been going over this training about GoPro, and it has been showing the 7 steps of being a successful evangelist and a successful soul winner. These 7 steps have been life-changing in my experience and being able to share Christ with others. So we've been learning at those, and today we are looking at the skill of follow-up. Last time we saw the skill of inviting. We saw the 8 steps to inviting people to take a look to a tool or training that we have, or a publication, video, or an event. Today we are going to be looking at following up with our contacts. What do we say when they have taken a look at what our third-party presentation tool and how we can do that? And I'm so excited for this one and our discussion afterwards. So we're going to listen to this audio and we're going to discuss it afterwards, and we're going to get some more feedback on it there. So let's hit this, let's roll the audiobook.
Chapter 7, Skill Number 4, Following Up with Your Prospects. In MLM, they say the fortune is in the follow-up. I think that's true, because most people in MLM don't follow up at all, at least not as professionals. You need to understand some important concepts if you're going to master this skill. Concept number 1, follow-up is doing what you said you'd do. If you say you're going to call at a specific time, then do it. The network marketing profession is full of people who get all excited one minute and then go missing in action the next. Run your business through a physical or electronic calendar. Be the person who does what they say they're going to do. People will respect that. I sold real estate the year before I got involved in network marketing. My father and his partner owned the company. One day I was in the office and a gentleman by the name of Chuck Aycock showed up for a 10 a.m. meeting with my dad. It was 9:55 a.m. and my dad wasn't in the office yet. I greeted Chuck and told him I was sure my dad would arrive soon. At 10 a.m. exactly, Chuck got up and said, "It's 10 o'clock. Your dad isn't here. Have him call me if he wants to reschedule the meeting." I couldn't believe it. He came all the way to the office just to leave 30 seconds after the appointment. I told him, "Mr. Aycock, I'm sure he'll be here any minute. There's no need to leave." And then he told me something I never forgot. He said, "Son, you are either early or you are late. He's late, and my time is valuable. Have him give me a call if he'd like to reschedule." And he left. My dad showed up at 10:10 a.m. expecting to meet Chuck. I told him what happened, and he was as stunned as I was. My dad wasn't habitually late or anything. That particular morning, he was just a little casual with his time. He rescheduled the appointment, and I noticed over the years that my dad was always early for his appointments with Mr. Aycock. What's the lesson in this story? For me, the lesson was that people respect a person who does what they say they're going to do. People also respect a person who values their own time. If you say you're going to follow up at a specific time or in a specific way, either do it or reschedule well ahead of your appointment. Concept number 2. The only reason to have an exposure is to set up the next exposure. When I got started, I would conclude every exposure by saying, "What do you think?" No one told me that was one of the worst things to do. It felt like a natural thing to say, but my results were terrible. I asked one of my early mentors for help, and he said, "Eric, the only reason to have an exposure is to set up the next exposure." That blew my mind. I thought the reason to have the exposure was to get the person signed up. He went on to explain that if you finish each exposure by setting up the next one, the prospect will eventually become educated on the opportunity and make an informed decision. The goal in my mind changed from getting the prospect on the first exposure to just keeping the process alive by setting up the next follow-up exposure, then the next, and the next, until they made a decision. When I made this small improvement, my results improved dramatically. We talked earlier about how to professionally invite your prospect to take a look at what you have to offer. At the end of that process, we went through several steps to set up the next exposure, meaning your follow-up call. That was your next appointment. When you make that call, you're going to ask them if they reviewed the material. They'll say, "No, I didn't," or they'll say, "Yes, I did." Let's talk about how you'll set up the next exposure in both cases. If they say no, they didn't have a chance to review the material, it's important you don't show your displeasure at their lack of follow-up. It sounds funny, but a lot of people just jump on their prospects with, "I thought you said you'd be able to see it for sure." Obviously, this won't help build that good relationship you're working on. The best way to respond is, "That's okay, I understand sometimes life gets busy. When do you think you could do it for sure, for sure? You might say, for sure is a little much, but I've used that for decades in this follow-up situation, and I do it because it works. In any case, use whatever language you'd like to use to set up the next time and walk through the same steps to get the commitment. Once you have it, including the date and the time of the next call, the next exposure, then hang up and call them when you said you would. If you call them at the scheduled time and they still haven't reviewed the material, just repeat the process until they do. Remember, they are setting up the appointment, and you are being the professional by following up like you said you would. If you call the prospect and they say yes, they've reviewed the material, you're going to ask them a few intelligent questions. First, you're not going to ask, "What do you think?" This just invites the critical part of the prospect's mind to come up with objections to try to sound smart. The best follow-up question I've ever used is, "What did you like best?" This question will take you in a very positive direction and will give you clues as to the level of their interest. If they say the product, then your next exposure will probably be product-related. If they say financial freedom, then your next exposure will probably be opportunity-related. Another great question to ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being zero interest and 10 being ready to get started right away, where are you right now? With this question, anything over 1 is good. It says they have some interest. Most of the time you'll get something like a 5 or a 6. No matter what number they give you, all you're going to do is ask them how you can help them get to a higher number. Usually that answer will go along the lines of how they answered, "What did you like best?" If the answer is very positive and the number is fairly high, you can go directly into the closing process. We'll cover that in the next section. If it isn't an obvious green light, then you just schedule the next exposure. They might want to try the product, so you help them do that and set up a follow-up date, a time to call them, and check on the experience, the next exposure. They might want to understand the compensation plan, so you set up a time to get together and review it, the next exposure. They might want to talk with their spouse, so you send them home with materials they can share with their spouse and set up a date and time when you'll follow up, the next exposure. Whatever it is, you never finish one exposure without setting up the next one. Never. If you do, it's over. That's what used to happen to me at the beginning. I would have someone look at the opportunity. When they'd done that, I'd say, "So, what do you think?" They'd usually mumble something like, "I'll let you know," or "I'll get back to you," or "I need to think more about it," or something similar. And poof, they were gone. Then when I tried to call them back, I was just bothering them. The whole thing felt uncomfortable. Once I changed to never finishing one exposure before setting up the next one, everything changed for the better. I was being professional. I was in control. The prospect had more respect for me and for the opportunity. All of this happened from this one small change in mindset. Concept number 3. It takes an average of 4 to 6 exposures for the average person to join. When people don't understand that the only reason for an exposure is to set up the next exposure, they put too much pressure on their prospects and on themselves. In the some will, some won't, so what next MLM culture, people hammer on a person once, and if they don't join right away, they move on and never follow up. In many cases, they take it a step further by damaging the relationship with the prospects with their attitude. Professionals understand that it takes an average of 4 to 6 exposures for a prospect to become involved. Their goal is education and understanding. It's hard to educate someone in one exposure, so they take them from exposure to exposure to exposure, knowing it will eventually sink in. Through that process, they also build a stronger relationship with the prospect. They strengthen the friendship. That helps build trust, and people enjoy working with people they like. 4 to 6 exposures is an average, which means that for every person who joins on the first exposure, there's going to be a person who takes more than 10 exposures to join. You just never know. Some of the best people in network marketing were prospected for years before they finally made the decision to take part in the opportunity. Keep your urgency, but have patience. Concept number 4. Condense the exposures for better results. Posers prospect someone once and move on. Amateurs prospect someone through several exposures over time. Professionals condense those exposures into the shortest time possible. People are busy. They're constantly distracted by life. When you're approaching them to take a look at something new, it's important to keep their interest. The best way to do that is to stack the exposures as closely as possible. If you go slow, you might start by having them check out a video, then a few weeks later have them listen to a conference call, then a month later have them attend a webinar. Then after another month, invite them to a 3-way phone call with you and another distributor. This slow process is difficult because between each exposure, they tend to get distracted by life. It can almost be like starting over every time. On the other hand, if you have them check out a video, then join a conference call, then try the product, then get on a webinar, then participate in a 3-way call, then come to a live meeting, or whatever combination of exposures you use in your company and do it all in 1 week, you give them the opportunity to really think about how this could change their lives. Questions and objections. At every step in the recruiting process, you'll come across questions and objections. This is natural. A lot of the time, your prospect will just be bringing them up to sound intelligent. They don't want to seem easy, so they throw out objections to feel better. How you respond is extremely important. If you act defensive, you'll plant a seed of doubt in their minds. If you act offensive, you'll chase them away. Remember, our goal is education and understanding. It's not to win an argument. Our job is to help blind people see. When someone brings up a negative question, or if they offer you an objection, all they're really doing is helping you to identify one of their blind spots. It's helpful to know what these are so you can assist your prospects in eliminating them. I'm going to give you some specific tactics to help overcome objections, but the thing I want you to remember and spend more time focusing on are concepts. Tactics come and go. Concepts are timeless. I found that objections fall into one of two categories. The first is the prospect's limiting belief in their abilities. They aren't sure they can be successful. The second is a limiting belief in network marketing. They aren't sure network marketing will help them achieve their goals in life. For both categories, one of the best concepts is empathy, how you relate to people. And the best way I know to relate to people is to let them know you're just like they are. You had the same doubts, the same questions, the same fears, and you overcame them. Believe it or not, your story and the stories of others will do more for you in overcoming objections than anything else. There's an old tactic called feel, felt, found. It works with the concept of empathy. When a prospect offers an objection, you respond with, "I know how you feel. I felt the same way. But here's what I found." You can use that quite literally and with great success. You can also modify it based upon your story and your prospect. When prospects have a limiting belief in their abilities, the common objections in this category are, "I don't have the money. I don't have the time. It's not my thing. I'm not a salesperson. I don't know anyone. Or I'm too old, too young, have no experience, etc." Some people teach fancy approaches where you make yourself seem smart and the prospect seems stupid. "You don't have any money? Do you have a cable bill? Do you have a cell phone? Do you ever go out to dinner? You have lots of money. Come on, wake up." Or, "You don't have the time? How long do you want to have that reality in your life? You have to change if you want your life to change." How does it feel when you hear that? How would it feel if someone were to say it to you? Pretty bad, right? A better approach is to relate to the person and tell your story. When a person tells me, "I just don't have the money right now," I respond, "I had the same exact challenge. I didn't have enough money to pay my bills, let alone start a new business. But when I thought about it, I realized if I didn't have enough money to pay my bills now, how was I going to change that in the future? I was tired of being behind. I was tired of scrambling. I wanted more out of life. So you know what I did? I found a way. And it was the best decision I ever made." Let me ask you something. If you really felt this was a chance for you to take control of your financial future, do you think you could find a way to make it happen? 9 times out of 10, they would agree they could find a way. Again, forget the exact words and focus on the concept. I told them I was the same as they were, with the same objection. I told them about my pain, and I told them I found a way to solve it. As a result, we bonded. We related to each other. We were in the same boat with the same hopes and dreams. And if I didn't have a personal story that would compare with theirs, I would tell another person's story. There are plenty of stories inside your company that can relate to virtually every situation. So when a prospect tells you their objection, you can say, "I know what you mean. I have a friend who had that same exact problem, and let me tell you their story." Can you see how that approach would work with all the objections based on a person's limiting belief about themselves and their lives? The concept is simple, it's proven, and the results are amazing. When people have limiting beliefs about network marketing, this category includes, "Is this MLM? Is this one of those things? Is this a pyramid scheme? I'm not interested in MLM. I don't want to bother my friends. And how much are you making?" Let's start with the one that strikes fear into the hearts of most people in our profession. Is this MLM? Or variations like, is this one of those things? Or is this a pyramid scheme? Or I'm not interested in MLM. Some people go a little crazy when they hear this question. They say, pyramid scheme? Like every corporation in the world? Like the government? You mean that? Instead of going crazy on your prospects, it's important to understand where this question comes from. My experience has shown me that they usually knew someone who joined with no success, or else they've done it themselves. Usually they just purchased a virtual lottery ticket like I described earlier and it didn't pay off. This scenario represents well over 90% of the people who will ask this kind of question. The rest of them have heard of opportunities like this and are rightfully skeptical of the promise of getting rich quick. If they ask this kind of question with any sort of emotion, I know they've been involved at some point. So I say, wait a minute. You have a story. What happened? Were you involved in network marketing at some point? Then just let them tell you their story. It opens them up. It lowers their defenses. And it allows you to ask some questions about their experience. Let me give you a typical example. I'm going through my invitation process when the prospect says, wait a minute, is this MLM? And they say it with emotion. I reply, oh, you have a story. Did you try it out at some point? What happened? They say, yeah, I joined a company a few years ago, bought some product, and lost my money. I reply, what do you think was the reason you didn't have success? They say, well, my friend talked me into it. I didn't have a lot of time, and I thought more people would join right away, but they didn't. I guess I just lost interest. I reply, do you think you really gave it a fair shot? They say, no, not really. I reply, do you think network marketing was the problem, or do you think maybe your timing wasn't right? They say it was probably the timing. Do you see the dynamic? I've had thousands of these conversations, and they're all slightly different. But if you ask some questions and are friendly through the process, you have a strong opportunity to help them get rid of their blind spot and take a look at what you have to offer. In addition, you can relate to them by saying you had the same objection initially and telling them how you overcame it. If someone uses the word pyramid with me, I always say, oh no, pyramid schemes are illegal, and I would never be involved with something illegal. For people asking this with emotion attached, I usually respond with, yes, this is network marketing. Do you know anything about it? Again, I'm asking questions and waiting for answers. From those answers, I ask more questions, and through the process, I can achieve my goal of education and understanding. I don't want to bother my friends is slightly different. Again, I relate to them by telling my story or somebody else's story, and then I ask questions like, what makes you think you'd be bothering your friends? If you truly believed in the product, would you let your friends know about it? And if I could show you how we can share this product with others without it feeling or sounding like a sales pitch, would that help you? The last in this category is, how much are you making? If you're making money already, this is a great question. If you're not, your answer depends on how long you've been involved. If you're brand new, you can tell them you're just getting started. If you've been around for a while and not making big money yet, you can tell them you're working part-time and are really excited about your future. You could also say that you're excited about your future with this company because you knew things weren't going to change if you didn't do something to change them. The other way to answer it is to tell your story and then tell stories of people you know who are making good money. You can even suggest setting up a phone conversation with those people so they can feel more comfortable about the opportunity. All of this takes practice, but if you get the concepts down, you'll find it becomes easy. And the other thing that should encourage you is you'll only have this handful of the same objections for the rest of your career. There's nothing new here. What I've listed in this section is about all there is. Remember, our goal is education and understanding. This is a part of the process that makes that goal a reality.
All right, great. So I really like that training. It's very eye-opening. There's a lot of different principles that we can get there and apply to evangelism and the gospel and being able to share with other people. What was something that stood out to you guys in the training?
An average of 4 to 6 exposures before they will join.
So an average of 4 to 6, which means that the purpose of what was the purpose of an exposure?
To educate.
Educate.
No.
No?
That was a goal of the exposures. But what was the purpose of an exposure?
What is between the goal and the purpose?
I'll tell you.
every exposure with another exposure.
Yes.
Oh,
The purpose
that's
of an
right.
exposure is to schedule another exposure. This is extremely important to understand. So that means our goal is not to get the person to say yes and to close them on whatever opportunity, whether some who are joining us on Discord, who were not here in some of the previous ones, we've covered that the opportunity. Anytime that you see the word business, you could always replace it with ministry. And the opportunity may not be like a network marketing opportunity. It could be an opportunity to volunteer in ministry. It could be an opportunity to use your talents for Christ. It could be an opportunity to become a small group leader. It could be whatever service or opportunity that we give to people in ministry. That is something that we can offer people. But so in other words, like this might look like you're talking to someone, and part of the follow-up process is so powerful with the small groups. And I do this after every small group, and small group leaders are popping up left and right, just asking them, what was the number one, like, the best question that he's ever asked at the end of an exposure using a third-party presentation tool?
What did you like best about this?
What did you like best about this? So that's what, if you've noticed, I've been teaching all of our small group leaders at the end of every small group, follow up with your small group leaders, be like, what did you like best? Or not just the leaders, but the attendants, and especially the newer people. It's like, what did you like best about the small group? And it already gears them in a helpful area, channel of thinking, not critical, but it's already light and night, and then they tell you. But then we ask is like, hey, would you consider? Would you be interested in, or if we provided training, would you be interested in becoming a small group leader of your own? And that's if I would you kind of format. And I've been asking people that, and people have been saying yes, yes, yes. Or if they say no, was the purpose of that exposure to get them to say yes to becoming a squad leader the first time? No. So how many times are they going to have to, these touch points, these exposures, are they going to have to go through before they finally say yes?
Could be 4 to 6.
4 to 6 on average. Think about Barbara. Barbara's attended small group after small group, and she's like, I'm not a leader. This isn't for me. You guys are doing that, but I'm different. And over and over and over, she was just like, no, 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 not for me. But now, for the first time, she's like, you know what? After the exposure, after developing the relationship, after seeing enough testimonies of Tina leading out and Mom leading out and Kamran leading out, then she's like, you know what? If they can do it, maybe I can too. They're able to see in me what I don't see in myself yet. And so she started to have the faith, but it's just by scheduling another exposure. And what would be an example of an exposure in our context?
And buying a Bible to the small group meeting.
Yeah, so a call, you have small group, yes, small group meeting.
Message, I don't know. The message be.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the exposures I do a lot of, to be honest, I do most of this on these exposures on text. When I'm talking to them on Messenger, that's where I've had these conversations. The conversation he's going through, I've had a lot of these on text. You could do it. He says do it on the phone, but I've done it on text, and it works really well.
Right.
What would be another
you
example?
You don't really schedule one in text, though.
Yeah, I do. I schedule them every time.
Like how?
I just say, hey, so when do you think you'll be able to for sure watch this leadership table? Like, I think I could do it at lunch. It's like, okay, so if I talk to you this evening, you'll for sure be able to take a look? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, and then send them a link. And then say, I look forward to seeing you tonight at 7 o'clock. And then I follow up with them at 7 and be like, hey, it's like, I was wondering if you had an opportunity to take a look at the leadership table from this morning. And then they say yes or no. It's like, no, I listened to the wrong one. Like, oh, no worries. Like, I've done that plenty of times. But would you be able to take a look at, you just schedule it again. Would you be able to take a look at the right one? Does that make sense? You can schedule it through text. The whole process. Malcolm Hunt, he teaches. He calls it texting for success. He does a whole training on this format, just through texting, and he'll go through with the audience, and we can all like text people while we're going through the training and learning how to do that. I'd love to do that in some evangelism training sessions, but I mean it's really powerful because while you're in the conversation, you can have like 10 people who are saying yes to showing up to an event, a webinar, a presentation, or something next event, and it's like, wow, people's lives are being changed. What's in another example of an exposure? Because if you think about that, what was the last chapter that we just got done going through last week? What was that on?
Duplication and what's important. Duplication. Presenting.
Presenting. Yes. So how is it that we should be presenting? How do we present the gospel? How do we present these opportunities? Be a small group leader to attend.
Opportunity.
Yes. How do we present our opportunity? How do we present what we have? Boy, you guys are. This is like extremely important that we understand. Kamran, do you remember? You got a good memory. What do we use to present?
Third-party tools?
Yes. So we got a third-party presentation tool. What is a third-party presentation tool?
Something that you have, like you're not like presenting it, or like doing it there.
Duplicating third party.
You could be presenting it.
Yeah, but like not like there.
Yeah, you're not live in the conversation. Word vomiting all over them. You were saying about duplication. Yes or no? But what's in it? What's a very specific one? What's an example? Yes, video. Okay. So let's say, do we have videos? Do we have funnel links for people to take a look at and to participate? So when we're inviting, so thearmyofyouth.com/squads.
That's a third-party presentation tool.
Yes, these are the tools that we are providing for our team leaders that they can invite people with, and we need to understand how to use the tools. So when you send a link, like to leadership table this morning, that's a video. So you think, who are your leaders that did not attend the leadership table today, and who can I share this with so that they don't miss out? So you go through the process, the 8 steps of inviting, go through all 8 steps, you schedule the time, and then they're taking a look, and then it's follow-up is doing what you say you're going to do. And when you show up, they should have been watching the leadership table, and now you are asking them, then you're going through this process. But it's based on like this conversation of everything that we learned today is after they watched your video or your third-party tool or attended the webinar or attended a small group or whatever the case is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the fortunes and the follow-up. Mm-hmm. It's like the destiny of souls depends on how you follow up with your contacts.
I like where he said helping the blind to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice.
We help the blind to see. That's what we do.
Right, that's
the
exactly our
objection
mission.
of like, I don't want to bother.
Do them a disservice if we don't invite them.
Yeah, if we have something to offer that would positively impact the lives of others and benefit them, or if people are living with a problem and we have a solution to their problem, we have a moral obligation to sell our product or service or opportunity. We have a moral obligation to persuade them to make that decision that could change their lives for the better. That's up for all of us to develop our persuasion skills so that we can help people and lead them to Jesus. So what else stood out to you guys in this? And this is open for those on Discord. You're welcome to unmute and share and speak, ask questions, concerns, comments, ahas, epiphanies that you had. And I see when you unmute yourself, I can call on you if you unmute yourself. What was something that stood out to you in this training? Yes, Cameron?
Asking what did you like best about it instead of what did you think.
Yeah.
Because I've been, like, when I'm following up with people a lot lately, I've been asking, what do you think? And I see how it's not very helpful.
Why is it not very helpful?
Because they have to start thinking about what they thought.
A lot of the times, your mind goes to the negative.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
I
So-
know that for myself.
So
And
by
that
go ahead.
that question just like frames it that you're looking for something you liked
Positive.
about it, and it like, yeah, it makes a huge difference of the way you look at a thing if you ask that question instead of what you think.
What you like best makes them think about what was best, not what was the worst.
Yeah, like I see when I'm asked what do you think, I'm trying to find something to like criticize or
Mhm.
like give some feedback on instead of looking for something that went well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So in learning persuasion, we have to know to ask the right questions that will lead, like our questions will lead and guide their minds, their thoughts, and their feelings to the direction that is going to help them best and to bring them closer to Christ. So I see that Angela's unmuted, and then Jason, I'll call on you next. Angela, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I've noticed that some of the people in the Army of Youth have been practicing that because like you said, you've been teaching them that, so they already have been exposed to that. And asking me, "What do I think about this?" or "What?" Or no, I mean, they don't ask me that. They say, "What did you like best?"
Yeah.
Instead of saying, "What do you think?" They're like, "What do you like best?"
Yeah.
So it's like ingrained into the program already. And also, when they said the in the thing that you played, he said 4 to 6 exposures, and that's something that I practice because when I was in my pastoral admin classes, they said you have to expose 6 times, or you haven't exposed your church to it. They said expose 6 times, so that's a principle I use in my relationships too, because when you're like, I'm in this relationship, I told this person this, they don't know it yet. So
That's right.
good.
That is so true. And
Yeah.
it's really encouraging because these statistics are across the board and across industries. It's not really speaking about just with like network marketing. It is human nature fundamentally, how we interact and how we view the world or like take it in. And so when we understand these basic principles, then it really opens the worlds of possibilities for us to share Christ with the world. Thank you for sharing that testimony. Jason, you wanted to share?
Yeah, I was gonna say, he actually mentioned the use of questions as you were talking about before, but using the questions to actually lead a person to the answers that they are internally seeking, because obviously people always have rejections or whatever because our limiting beliefs are always wired to say no. Whenever we're met with something, we want to say no or we're hesitant. But as soon as you break it down for them by letting them do the thinking, you get their brain to work and you unravel all of their psychological thoughts so that they're better able to be comfortable and situate themselves in with the opportunity or the idea. So with us going out there, a lot of people are going to hear about Christ and they'll be like, no, I've seen a lot of other Christians, or no, I don't think I want to be a part of a Bible group that is different and I don't know anyone. But it's like, when you actually ask them questions, like, hey, aren't we all brothers in Christ? What makes you afraid of being with other people? Is there a certain thing? And then when you start to unravel this, you actually give them different ways and you actually shape their perspective on their own false beliefs that they have.
That's so true. And all of the beliefs that we have is a result of the story that we tell ourselves about a certain experience that we've had. It's the meaning that we attach to these experiences that create all of our beliefs, and our beliefs is what drives all of our behaviors and decisions. So if people are showing up to your small group or they're not showing up, or then it's because of the beliefs and the story. So when we, like you were saying, asking questions, it's synonymous with listening. And there's three steps to overcome any objection, doesn't matter what kind, whether it is a sales objection, whether it's a biblical objection, whether that is someone attending an event or making a decision for Jesus. Any objection, all objections, you can overcome all of them just with 3 simple steps. Listen, relate, and tell stories. I've been following these since like 2018, and they've opened doors. I use this framework every single day of changing people's beliefs so that they can make better decisions. Listen, that's asking questions. Relate, that's empathy. That is finding that common ground, and then telling stories. Just like you were saying, it's giving them a different story that they can replace their limiting chains of belief with some liberating beliefs that will set them free. And that the stories, like anytime that you share a Bible verse, anytime that you share your personal testimony or the testimony of others, that's all different examples of stories. That's why in last month's livecast, we really did a deep dive on how we can share our testimonies with others. And that's why this entire month in the small group squads, we are going over how to share our testimonies, because this is fundamental. We all need to master the art and science of storytelling. By doing that, it's going to help us to connect with people and overcome the challenges that they face. So, I've got a question. What is... my question is, what tool did he recommend that we use in order to do what we say we're going to do? How are we able to keep track of our follow-up?
Calendar.
What was that?
Calendar.
Yes. He was saying to use a digital or a physical calendar. This is something that if we're going to be winning souls for Christ, we're going to have to each become better at managing a digital or physical calendar. I know that we have an account book that is extremely helpful for the day-to-day follow-ups with people, but if you have to follow up like a week or 2 later, it's kind of harder to do that with this. But it's where we have Google Calendar, and when you start scheduling the times when you say you're going to follow up with people, things change, and it's really incredible when we do that. And this is why these are all called skills. Following up is a skill that we can develop. Naturally, we're not going to be good at it when we first start, but if we want to win souls for Christ, we recognize we're going to have, in order to take where we are to where we want to be, we're going to need to learn some skills. And it just comes through practice, doing it 100 times. And in a short succession, it'll help tremendously. But I wanted to get back on that, getting back on the reason for having an exposure. There is a really nice acronym that I learned that was really helpful, is BAFA. Do you guys know what BAFA stands for?
No.
Does anyone know what BAFA stands for? Mom does. We've been using this for several years. Book an appointment from an appointment. That's what BAFA stands for. What did he say would happen? And an appointment is the same thing as an exposure. What did he say would happen if we did not book an appointment from an appointment?
You lose it. You lose them.
We lose them. Yes, we do. How do we lose them?
They life happens and their minds get elsewhere and interested in other things.
Yes. I really want you to understand this, because some of you guys are struggling with, as you're interacting with people, you're finding that they stop responding to you. Has anyone ever experienced where you're talking to people and they stop responding and you're like,
Yes.
my conversation just died, I don't know why they're not responding? Well, part of the reason is because you didn't book an appointment from an appointment, and so time got in between, they got distracted. Now when you follow up with them, it feels like you're bothering the person. But if you follow the 8 steps to inviting, then the person is the one who's scheduling it, not you. You're just confirming you're just following up, you're doing what they told you to do. They said that they could do it, they could watch a leadership table tonight. They said you can call them at 6 o'clock. They said that they would be ready by then. So you're just showing up when you say you're going to show up. You're not bothering them at all. You're being a professional. You're being honest and following up when you say you are. But so when you call, it's expected. And then if they're not ready and they weren't able to do it, that's when what happens if you don't book an appointment from that appointment?
You lose it.
You lose it.
You lose them. They're going to drop. They're going to fall off. So if we're seeing these contacts that are interested one day, but then you notice that they're not interested in showing up to your small group, they're not interested in being a small group leader, they're not interested in whatever you're offering, then chances are you drop the ball on them and they're gone. And sometimes you have to go find more people, and they're not going to be recovered. But sometimes they do come back years later, and you just check up on them maybe 3 months later or 6 months later, and then you just put them on kind of like a cycle. That's why it's kind of like a friendship funnel, where you're just seeing who's available. Or when they're not as interested, then you're able to connect with them more. Just get to know them. Go through form: family, occupation, religion, and T for testimony. So just asking them questions about one of those 4 things. And you're strengthening and developing a relationship and going through more stuff. Now, there was a question, he was saying there was a whole concept on it. He was saying, concept number 4. Who remembers what concept number 4 was? If it takes 4 to 6 exposures for people to say yes.
Condense the exposures.
Can you say it louder? Can't hear you.
Condense the exposures for better results.
Yeah, condense the exposures in the shortest time possible.
That means don't allow like weeks to pass before, because you're gonna lose it. I know exactly, like doing Bible work. I've definitely experienced like the difference, and especially like since I'm not here all the time. Yeah.
Yeah?
Like with the context that I used to have.
It is true. When you're doing Bible work here, the context you said, you went home, you're gone for 6 months, and you didn't follow up with them on social media in between. So, who was once really hot and accepting Bible studies, really interested, like this temperature gauge, I like it a lot because it's a nice tool to recognize where the person is. Where there is a temperature gauge for your relationship with them, the strength of your friendship will be in proportion to the strength of your influence.
Mm-hmm.
So how much they know, like, and trust you. But it's also their interest level. Their interest in where they're at. Remember that question? What's a really good question to ask right after you ask them, what did you like best? Depending, like, it doesn't really matter what they say. What was the next question to ask them?
On a 1 to 10, where are you?
Yeah. You guys hear me ask that a lot for many different decisions,
Yeah.
right? You're going to learn in the chapter on closing how this closing is what helps you to really close them on a decision. Whether that is deciding where you're going to move, what you're going to do, how interested you are in taking a new position, or stepping out of your comfort zone. When you're leading people and you're helping others to climb higher, this isn't just for like the front doors of your opportunity, but this is ascending every step of the way. when you ask people on a scale from 1 to 10, how interested are you in insert whatever the opportunity or decision is for them to make, 1 being not interested at all, and 10 being you're ready to get started right now. And then they'll tell you where you are. So what happens if they say they're at a 3?
Maybe bring them to 4.
What do you do if they say that?
Book another appointment.
Nope.
How can we help you get from a 3 to a
Yeah.
4?
How can we help you to get higher?
Higher.
What would it take to get that number higher? That's the question. And yes, so what would it take to get that number higher? And what does it mean if they say they're at a 3? Is that good or is that bad?
That's good.
Why is that good? That's
This is-
really low.
It's better than no. It's better than 1, which is not an interest. So 3 is anything above a 1 is good, and you need to take them higher.
That's right. That means we're just early on in the exposure process.
Right.
So it's a beautiful thing. Anything above a 1 is really good. That means they're interested.
Yes.
They're not ready right now. They don't have to be. And the area where people fail and mistake over and over and over is when and this will be when people, when it comes home, is when they first meet a contact, they want to just slam them over the head with some heavy duty doctrine or some very unique doctrine just to whatever their church or they want to talk about the most disagreeable or the things that make them the most distinct and the most objectionable features of the faith. They want to put that first and foremost and tell someone exactly what's going on. And that's in the first interaction with an individual, they're already trying to close them, already trying to make them make a decision for something that involves a heavy cross. But that's not what the purpose of our interactions with people. We want to have 46 exposures with people, develop the relationship. You're cold. When you're talking to a stranger, that's a cold contact. You need to help them to build warmth, and you do that through common ground. And that's where a lot of people fail. A lot of missionaries fail in trying to share their faith. Just going straight for the jugular.
It reminds me of they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
If you're not in your exposure showing them how much you care for them and wanting to help them and stuff, they don't care, what you know.
That's right. That's right. And after an exposure, they're basically telling you on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 is very cold and 10 is very hot. And then they're basically showing this is their interest level. What number are they on this interest level? So what would you do if they said that they're at a 7?
What would it take to get higher?
No.
No, they're ready.
Anything above a 6, they're ready right now. You immediately go into the closing steps. And that's another training that we're going to do in the future. But if they're at a 7, 8, or 9, you don't have to ask what does it take to get the number higher. You're just all right, then let's get started. Now, then you ask the question, are you ready to get started right now? And chances are they'll say yes. Because there comes a point where they already know enough, they're ready, and for you to just over-educate them, you're going to lose them. Yes, and that's what happens in the condensing the exposures. If we don't condense those exposures and we just allow a week or 2 weeks or just hope that they reach out to you, we have to take initiative, we have to take responsibility.
Proactive.
If it's meant to be, it's up to me. We have to be proactive in the salvation of souls and for helping people to make these decisions. So scheduling more appointments, more exposures, using third-party presentation tools, whether that is attending a small group, attending the leadership table, whether that's attending the Direction from God webinar, whether that's attending the live cast, whether that's plugging into a podcast or listening to a specific podcast, checking out a video on YouTube. These are different tools that we are offering to help people. And it's the same thing back in the old way of doing evangelism, when you had a physical book and you're going door to door, or you're giving them a book, or you're giving them a Steps of Christ, or you're giving them a 28 lesson guide, one at a time. It's when you have 28 study guides, the purpose of a study is to schedule another study. You're trying to go through all 28. You're helping them go through a series. And very similar to with the live cast, the purpose of the live cast is to help them to come to the next live cast. Like for all of it, with the leadership table, the purpose of the leadership table is to help them to come to the next leadership table, and that nobody misses out. So these are all things that we want to be aware of, and if people are missing, we want to follow up with them and say, hey, what's going on? What happened? We missed you. And can you take a look at the tool, or can you watch it afterwards and let's discuss it? So, another thing that they said is there are two different types of objections. Did you guys catch those two different objections?
Two different types of objections?
Yeah.
Limiting beliefs?
They're both limiting beliefs. All objections are limiting beliefs. But one's a limiting belief on what?
Themselves.
Yes, themselves. So it's their ability. And what's the next limiting belief?
The opportunity.
Yes. It would they would say he was saying network marketing, but when you look at network marketing, it is if you're looking at principles are transferable. The network marketing would be a vehicle. That is a vehicle that people can use to take where they are to where they want to be. So I would say another limiting belief on the vehicle. And in our vehicle, like people would say no to being a small group leader because they have a limiting belief on modern publishing and what that looks like. Can you actually change people's lives through a screen if you can't physically touch them or see their face?
You can't.
Can you actually, or a limiting belief on themselves, so like, can I really change someone's life through my phone? I am more of a face-to-face person. I like personal interaction. Would I really be able to make a difference through a computer or a laptop? That's a limiting belief. So how do you overcome a limiting belief about the phone? And this is what you're going to have in bringing people to small groups. What 3 steps would you take? How do you overcome any objection, every objection?
Listen, relate, and tell stories.
Yeah, listen, relate, and tell stories. So Tina, if I said, I don't know if I can come to your small group, because I'm not really like a phone person. I'm not really good with the phones. I like to see people face to face. What would you say? If you were to listen, relate, and tell stories.
I've definitely been there too, because...
Is that listening?
Are you asking questions first?
Yep.
Okay.
Get them to elaborate and talk a little bit more.
Okay, so your objection was, I'm not really...
I'm not really, I'm more of a face-to-face person. I like to talk to people in person.
So it makes you like a face-to-face person, like, so you don't talk to people on the phone?
you did that thing that he was saying, like, oh, you can't afford it? What, you don't have a phone bill? Oh, so you don't eat food? Oh, okay, so you don't have a vehicle then, you don't drive around, you can't afford it, you don't have money? Okay, I see. I'm just playing with you. Isn't that amazing how it's so transferable with what we're doing? Jason's unmuted. Does that mean you want to like do some role play with me for a moment?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So if I said that I don't know if it would be a good fit for me to show up to your small group because I like to see people in person. What would you say?
I would be like, yeah, I actually understand that. Why do you not feel like it's a good fit? I know you want to see people in person, but what makes you say that?
Well, I just find that it's difficult to. I like to see their facial expressions and the responses of people when I'm talking and sharing, and it just seems very impersonal to hear a voice.
Yeah, it seems personal to be right in front of them, hearing their voice and seeing how they react to what you say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes you a lot more comfortable, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
See, you know what's cool about that? Like, I'm actually the exact same way. And one thing I found out about Discord is the leaders and the small group leaders, everyone makes sure they're always on camera. So you can come on camera, they go on camera, and I know it's not quite the same, but it's the best thing we have right now because everyone is so far away.
Wait, so you're telling me that you can actually see people's faces on Discord?
Yes, brother.
Oh, wow. Well, then maybe that would be something I'd be interested in going to.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how interested are you in it?
I'd be an 8.
An 8?
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. So when do you think you're free to come to one of our small group meetings? I'll send you the link. Take a look at the schedules, and then I'll hit you up in about 2 hours to see which one you chose.
I see what you're doing. You're following the steps, but you want to ask them questions. But I will say that the part with overcoming your rejection, you did really good. Praise the Lord.
Yeah. Okay.
Amen, brother. Thank you. That was great. Just
No.
like that. Like asking questions, listening, relating, and telling stories. I had that exact same conversation with several people. Like, I probably talked to like 4 people who said that they like the face-to-face, and I had to ask them more questions and realize, oh, hey, you know, I prefer talking to people face-to-face. I love the physical interaction and being around people, which is why I think it's awesome on Discord. We encourage people to get on, they can see their face, and here's another objection. Sometimes people are like, I want to see others' faces, I don't want people to see mine. So I say, it's optional, you don't have to turn on your camera, but it's more personal, and people who do, it's like you're in the room with them. It's amazing. And it works really well. Listen, relate, tell stories.
What about like saying like talking about a lot of times we're limited, like face to face, we're limited to the people that we're around, and a lot of us don't have that many people. So is that like?
Are you asking me a question or are you making a statement?
I think it's a question. Is that something that you would say
What?
when talking to like them about like face to face?
Oh,
Because
I mean,
we
today you
can't
can bring
be-
up COVID-19 too.
yeah, and we can't be face to face with everyone. I mean, that's like we don't want to be limited just to our little community.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that I'll often say to people. I'll say it's like, yeah, I think the face-to-face interaction is wonderful. And with the whole world on lockdown right now, and COVID-19 makes it very difficult for us to gather together face-to-face. We found, and so this is vision casting, we're presenting the problem. So many people who crave that personal interaction and fellowship, they're not getting it because of COVID-19. So that's a problem. And now here's a solution. But in response to that, we've decided to offer a service for people so they can come together and fellowship. And because we can turn on videos, we see that face-to-face together. And the best part is, we're not limited to one community, one local community. We have an entire world that we're able to connect with. People are joining from Pakistan, from the Caribbean islands, from Canada, from South Africa, and people are joining from all over the world, and it's so amazing. People are saying that so here's a testimony. So I was relating, but here's a testimony. People are saying that they enjoy the small groups even more than their local church. It's providing that much of a blessing and value to their lives. And it's all on the screen, from the comforts of your home. And people see it, and it's been helping people to overcome and show up. Like people locally, we just tell people like, hey, if you want to come face to face, just come over to our place. We'll do a hybrid. And we have people physically, locally attending. They show up here, and then they show up on Discord, and it's all good. And so if we have people, like Angela brought her friend over, she brought her friend locally too, sitting next to her to participate. And sometimes that's a good first step. It's easier for people to come over. Yeah, you did that for your sister-in-law. And we did that with Pastor Smith. That's how he got hooked up. And it's a good step. If there's someone local, invite them over. Be local. Make an event out of it. We have people like Elder Brent. He's not technical at all, and he's like, I just have a hard time seeing how people connect. And then the whole conversation Jason had with me, I had with him. He's like, oh wow, just people don't know what they don't know. Their objection is just showing their blindness. We help the blind to see.
Yeah.
Let's understand the eyes of our understanding being enlightened in Ephesians 1:18. I like the phrase, we educate, you decide, and we support your decision.
Amen.
That's what we're here for. Whatever you decide, we support your decision. We're just educators. We're emotionally detached from the outcome, and all we're here to do is help, be a blessing, help you to understand more about our product or opportunity, service, and the decision is yours. Alright, well that's good. Hopefully, do you guys feel more comfortable with the skill of following up and knowing what to do with people? Praise the Lord. Good, seeing some head nods. Alright, well how about we close with a word of prayer? Sister Angela, would you like to close us with a word of prayer? Or Jason? Or Cameron?
Oh, Angela said not this time.
Okay.
Alright, I'll pray.
Thanks, Cameron.
Father in heaven, thank you, Lord, for what we're learning about skills and following up with people. Please, Lord, help us not to let people fall through the cracks.
Amen.
Lord, give us wisdom and tact and understanding as we interact with others and draw them to you. And we just ask that your will be done, and that you give us the words to say. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Praise the Lord. You know what Angela was saying about creating a culture of asking people what they like best? It's even getting to a point where it's like people are watching a video and then they're responding back to me and they're like, oh yeah, and the thing that I like best about it was, and they say it without me even asking. Like, that's cool.
Praise the Lord.